Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Project Podcast. Business principles for beginners from the School of Hard Knocks. They say that success leaves clues. In this podcast, we're going to discover the clues that it leaves behind, and we're going to start at the very beginning. We'll get into the weeds of how the guests of the show came up with their business ideas, the why behind their business ideas, how they dealt with setbacks and failures, what keeps them pushing forward, and the emotions behind it all. Everyone wants to start a business, but many are held back by something that keeps them from starting. We'll learn what it takes to get to the next level of business and beyond, and we're learning together through different principles of people who graduated from the School of Hard Knocks. So, grab you a pen, some paper, and a highlighter to take notes, because class is in session. Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Project Podcast. My name is the Chancellor, Bernard Gleaton, and this is the School of Hard Knocks. And as you can tell today, I have on one of my favorite hoodies today, Detroit versus everybody, because, again, I am from Detroit. And this next guest professor that I'm bringing into a class, he's actually from Toronto, Canada. So we had a nice little chat and everything, and, you know, I had to talk a little trash to him because he's in Toronto and I'm from Detroit. And that's just what I do. But other than that, I want to let you guys know that I was really happy when this brother said that he will come out to the show. He has a book out. It is an amazing book. I've read the book. It is awesome. And after I read the book, I had to reach back out to him, tell him, hey, I need you on the show. So he said yes. And I want to welcome into the classroom guest professor Colby Sharma. Say what's up to the class, guest professor.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Bernard, it's great to be here with you and your audience on this afternoon.
Man, like I mentioned, I'm so excited that you said yes. I appreciate you for allowing me the opportunity to read the book, and I'm just happy I was able to bring this to the classroom and just let you go, just let you rip, just go for it.
Thank you so much. It's kind words. It's my pleasure as well. And I have to say, you know, your sound mixing on the video was spot on. I love that sound.
Oh, appreciate it. A lot of hard work and effort.
yeah, totally. Totally.
So I want to give you a brief moment, because I know the class don't know you. I want to give you a brief moment for you to just tell the class a little bit about yourself, just a quick bio, and then we can go ahead and jump into it.
Of course. So, guys, make sure you take notes, have a really good pen in hand, because we're going to get down to some pretty good stuff. My name is Colby Sharma. I'm a law graduate from the United Kingdom, the University of Liverpool. I'm from Toronto, Canada. Yes, that's right. We do hold the Raptors 2019 championship pretty strongly in our hearts. I'm also an author of a book called The Curveball.
I'm not going to lie. I laughed when you had to put in there about the Toronto Raptors. But I'll give it to you only because it was a great series.
Yeah, it was. It was fucking hype. It was hype.
Yeah, I can't be mad.
It was hype. It was good.
Man. So I know you're obviously a sports fan, besides mentioning the Toronto Raptors and everything like that. And you mentioned the book, which is called The Curveball, a story of grit, adversity, and winning the game of life. So obviously Curveball got a little bit of baseball in it. So we're going to mix a lot of sports within this, because I'm a football guy. I can deal with basketball as well. So we're going to deal with a whole lot of sports here.
Totally, absolutely. I love sports. I love it.
Awesome. So the first question I always ask all of my guest professors is, what is your Genesis moment? And for those of you who are brand new to the School of Hard Knocks, let me explain to you what the Genesis moment is. The Genesis moment is when you come to a fork in your road of your life, and you can go left or you can go right. It don't have to be good and it don't have to be bad, but you know what your life could be like beyond those first steps. So, for example, an example of a Genesis moment is me starting this show. That's the Genesis moment. Me getting married, that's another Genesis moment. Me trying out for the CFL, 4 years removed from high school, that is another Genesis moment. So, with that being said, guest professor Colby, I want you to give us your Genesis moment.
Well, I mean, the Genesis moment is such an apt name because it's the first moment of creation. And I have to say, my Genesis moment really occurred around 2006, 2007, when I found out I had a learning disability. My father sat me down in a car. He said, "Son, here's what the tests were like. Here's what the prognosis was." And I went to a special school in downtown Toronto that fundamentally changed my life. It taught me so much. It improved me so much, kinesthetically, comprehension wise, and those formative experiences were something I hold very deeply, and it's the foundation really of everything I am. And I've said, I'm not where I'm at in spite of that. I'm where I'm at because of that, and I've met great friends, had such a great support system there that it. Um, th- and those experiences are sprinkled in the book as well. So that's a homage to how impacted I was at that time.
And I'm glad you brought up the book because we're definitely going to jump into that. So now that you gave us your Genesis moment, uh, this is something that I have to ask. I know
Mhm.
you just mentioned um, the learning disability and things of that nature. Is it Are you okay with saying exactly what that learning disability was?
So I don't know its scientific name.
Uh huh.
So it was mild, but I know the effects were kinesthetic related, so body wise and in space and comprehension related.
Mm, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
I get it. That must have been a tad bit tough to play sports with that type of disability, right?
Well, I mean, it was even before I started to actually play organized baseball. I started to play organized baseball when I was in high school, and
Mm-hmm.
this was in my elementary school years. So I was literally taken out of my normal elementary school, taken to this special school, and it was profound. It was a sense of nervousness, of isolation. What is this uncertain environment going to be like? Am I really going to thrive the way that they feel I can thrive? And it was a testament to the work I did, neuroplasticity training, and the environment I was around that really touch wood. Um, I came out all the best out of that.
Mm, okay. I know you mentioned that it kind of goes into the book that you wrote, which is again uh the Curveball, a story of grit, adversity, and winning the game of life. So, with that being said, I want you to talk a little bit about the book, and then I'll go ahead and throw or pitch you, pitch you some questions about the book.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Um, so the book really begins with a struggling, individual. He's a struggling baseball player who is having trouble accepting his stardom. He's troubled by the expectation, and he's facing adversity currently in his life. And in the book, he has to relearn lessons of his from his past, from a great set of characters to really help him find his purpose and success again in his life.
Mm, mm. I and once again, I simply am amazed and in awe about this book. It's funny because uh, as I'm typically on the weekends, I become the Uber driver for my wife, right? To drive her everywhere she wants to go. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And every time we go into the store, I break out my phone and start reading the book. There was a few moments
Wow.
where I had to sit down, where long lines and everything, and just me being in a husband session. Luckily, they had some chairs. I was able to break out my phone and start reading more passages, more chapters of the book. And
Wow.
so, with that being said, I
Yeah.
I want to talk about uh, what these questions I want to ask you is definitely coming from the book,
Mm,
but I want to ask you this question just right off the bat.
mhm,
Ego, right? I
mhm,
definitely want to talk about ego because
mhm.
you, in the beginning of the book, it really, really hammer home the idea of ego and what it can do for you and what you should control it to do, in a sense, right? So, with that being said, I want you to talk about how dangerous can having an ego be.
For sure. So I think Freud put it really well. There's the egoic self and then there's the heroic self. And I think, as encapsulated in the book, adversity really does love your ego. It loves that part of you that says, I'm okay, I don't need help, I'm all fine, even though it's quite obvious that, you're not fine. You are running from pain, you are running from challenges, you are running from this sense of unreality. So it's that duality between the two kind of fields. And I think, ego is the mask, quote unquote, that we all wear to what we put to the world's a selective side that we don't want others to see. We don't want to see Bryce didn't want to see himself as the, you know, guy at the rock bottom. He wanted to project, oh, I'm fine, I'm just gonna go about my business and not really seek help from what is a very profound period in his life that is affecting his wife at home that's expecting. I don't want to spoil it for your audience, but that's the dynamic. And yeah, so he's running from things and he's trying to say I'm all right when really you're not all right.
Mm. I, the whole thing about ego, being a athlete,
Mhm,
right? And I think all athletes, doesn't matter what sport it is,
mhm,
has to deal with this idea of the ego,
mhm.
right? Um, I I'm not trying to separate myself from the other athletes
Yeah.
before me or even after me, but
Mhm.
even with so I have an identical twin brother. So the both of us playing sports and being competitive towards one another, it,
Yeah.
it, it definitely helped the ego just a tad
Mhm,
bit, right?
mhm,
For me personally, I would have to say that the ego helped me in a way where I was more confident
mhm,
in my abilities and what I could do, right?
mhm.
And there's a dangerous side of that ego of knowing that I probably have no business trying to play, you know, something out of my normal and just think that I'm just going to be, amazing at it, right? For example,
Yeah.
I play softball. I've
Yeah.
tried baseball,
Yeah.
but you know, if my thing is I'm not going to use the position that one of your characters play, but if I play outfielder, then I got no business trying to play first base, right?
Yeah.
So the ego
Yeah.
can kind of get dangerous in the sense of believing, oh, well, since I could play outfield amazing, I
Mhm.
should be able to play every other position, not as hard or whatever else like that. I should just be amazing at it, because I'm amazing at outfield. And then
Yeah.
as soon as you go to first base and you get whooped up on, then you realize I'm not good at first base.
Totally. I mean, like, I think that's the sneaky thing, and I think that's the balance we all need to find in our lives. Because it really does trip you up. You can be like, oh well, I should be good at just everything because that's how ESPN says I am, or that's how Sports Illustrated says I am. So naturally, I'm just a fucking stud.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like when you get to hard moments, it's harder to kind of pull that back from that line, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, totally. One other thing that I do want to add is that it's hard to play sports and not have an ego. You know, I mean, you come across those. And I don't want to pick on this guy, but
Mhm,
To Terrell Owens,
mhm, mhm,
right? Amazing football player, amazing receiver. He in my eyes is one of the best receivers that I've ever seen. right?
Yeah.
But if you track his career,
Mhm.
his ego tend to be overblown in
Yeah.
a way where it can hinder the team chemistry
Yes.
and the way everybody else play and even his own play. Let's dig into some examples of specifically how the ego can hinder you being from you being your best in whatever you do.
Well, I mean, I think the classic example right now is Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
He's going
yeah, yeah.
from New England to now Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's questions of whether Bruce Arians thinks he's going to actually last or not because he's doing all these things that it is manifested by ego. It's manifested by some, inner part of somewhere is the something is just not right,
Mm,
and he's getting tripped up by some like invisible, thing. But then if you also look at it on a more positive angle, you have people like CC Sabathia, who is one of my all-time idols in terms of a pitcher, a class professional. But when he had his personal challenges, he really said, I really do need help, and I really do want to feel better for my teammates, and I want to be the player that that other young baseball pitchers players look up to. So
mhm,
I want to do it for them, and I think that's the two stark examples between ego, in my opinion.
mm. One of the other things, just there was so many, there was so many amazing things from this book. Yeah, I could go on and on and on, and this would probably end up to be 3 or 4 hours long. So it was kind of hard for me to pick and pull some of the things that I really want to discuss on.
Mhm,
Something else
mhm.
that I wanted to discuss is
Yeah.
adversity, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
idea of adversity and how to deal with adversity
Mm.
in a healthy way.
Yeah. I mean, I think taking a step back, I think this coronavirus time is throwing everyone a massive curveball, tons of adversity everywhere. Whether you're unemployed, whether on you know domestic violence, rates of domestic violence are skyrocketing since the pandemic, or whether it's mental health, which is also on the rise. Those are all microcosms, and I think we need to deal with adversity sort of step by step. We really do need to see it as just one base at a time, one job application at a time. If you're unemployed, take a step back, review your resume. How could you tailor your skills such that when the pandemic is over, there's opportunity out of that adversity, though? So you kind of cross that bridge.
Hmm.
How can you be where the market is going versus where the market has just come from? It's harder said in certain industries than others, but the principles are still very applicable. And we need to have Spooky's rules for grit. The first thing is looking like internally, how do you feel about the current like kind of situation?
Hmm.
Only then can you go step by step, one base at a time. And I think the most important thing when you are dealing with adversity is choosing your pitches, though. I think that's a very powerful lesson from the book is like choosing your pitches. One response must negate another response. You can't be happy and sad at the same time. You can't. That just seems as just unrealistic.
Yeah, yeah. Just for the class to know, Spooky is one of the characters of the book. In a sense, he's more so like uh, I sort of like the angel on the shoulder, the kind
Yeah,
of guide you in the
yeah,
right direction, right? And if I could get geeky for a brief moment, um, there is a Superman movie. It's fairly recent where Lois is, or this is the one where Superman dies and uh, his I guess you could say his brethren from his own planet comes down,
yeah,
sees him, knows that he's down here on Earth and everything like that, and so they get the conversation. But he takes Lois Lane up to their ship, right? And Lois Lane has this little piece that she grabbed from the original ship that Superman came to Earth with, and she
Mhm,
put it inside their ship. And Superman's father come out and starts directing her where to go, how to get out, and all this type of stuff, right? And again, I know that my geekiness is showing, but I'm saying that to say that Spooky kind of reminded me of Superman's father in a sense of guiding him, not
mhm,
actually telling him where to go, but helping him, helping and guiding him on where to go. You know, some of the decisions that you need to make, and to remember how did you get here in the
mm.
first place. You know,
I think that's a great similarity. I had one reviewer say Spooky reminded her of Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Past.
I was gonna say that for last. I was gonna say that towards the end, but yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Totally, totally.
Just like, okay, well, whatever.
I I would say that's pretty spot on because I definitely had that in my notes. You know, man, this is just like the name of the movie was The Christmas Carol.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
but I love the way that in that book you used Spooky the character
Hmm.
to help him remember who he is, and again, how did he get here. But with that being said, I know we was just talking about adversity.
Hmm.
Let's talk about perspective
Yeah,
and the need of changing your perspective.
yeah. I mean, I think perspective change is very, very important. It's about saying, like, where can I take this newfound like inspiration? How can I change my modalities of like thinking such that I can come up better when the adversity is maybe not as affecting me as much anymore? How can I do things just in a very different way? How can I think better? How can I think clearer? And I think, once we remove the negative kind of responses from that are pushing us in a certain direction, it does become easier to just change our perspective though. Because, in the book, we see Bryce that is very caught up in ego, very caught up in a self-centered mentality. And I think that's, he's in a very, rock bottom situation. But as the book goes on, we see his perspective change to caring more about others. And I think that's why it's just so important, especially in these tough, in this pandemic environment we're in right now.
Mm, you know,
And I think the other important thing is the importance of responses of like external triggers and stimuli. Bryce is forced to change his perspective because of his wife, because of his expecting child. I think once you have that kind of pulling at you in play, it becomes kind of easier per se to change the perspective and to actually want to change the perspective.
mm, as far as perspective, let me read a note that I made to myself
Yeah.
when I got to that passage, to that particular passage. Uh, this goes along the same lines as to why I feel that we should change our perspective when it comes to our goals. Our goals are big, audacious, and
Hmm.
can be viewed as Goliaths, which, like the Bible, scared many people.
Hmm.
However, if we approach these goals like a weekend project, they are no longer giants to us.
Hmm.
They appear more achievable just by changing our perspective.
Hmm.
And before I hit the record button, I told you the whole purpose of well, exactly how I got the name of the show, the Genesis Project Podcast. And
Yeah.
for those of you who may not know, Genesis, by no means is this a religious podcast, but we all have this solid understanding that Genesis is the first book of the Bible.
Yeah.
And with that being said, what and like I mentioned earlier, the Genesis moments is when we come to this fork in the road and we could go right, we could go left, but we can see what our life could be like beyond those first steps, right? And project, the reason why I added project into the name is because again, just like what I said, I feel that we develop or we have these big goals,
Yeah.
huge goals, but because they're so huge, we are afraid of those goals. They tend to scare the living crap out of us, right? And by us changing our perspective, by looking at this goal as a Goliath,
Yeah.
if I change my perspective as in a sense of a project, if I wanted to paint my room, if I
Yeah.
wanted to paint my office, I know it's going to take about a day or two.
Yeah.
That's easily attainable.
Well, I think you use project in a great way because I use project as we're all under construction in some facet. Bryce is under construction in a big part of the book. And he's learning these things and these ideas from Spooky. Spooky says, the crowd loves home runs. They love the grand slams. They love the grandeur. They love that stuff. But Bryce is forced to not get sucked into that and to focus on, what are the little adjustments he can take to move forward, to get to where he truly wants to go and to find lasting purpose. And I think, if you look at it, one of my all-time favorite movies is Moneyball.
Yeah,
We need to
yeah,
win a game. Life is a game of inches, says Any Given Sunday, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time. Al
bingo.
Pacino. Al Pacino. Life is a game of inches,
Yeah,
step by step.
yeah.
That's how we need to program ourselves to think if we want to find true success and lasting happiness, in my opinion.
I would definitely agree with that. I think from everything you just mentioned, that is a perfect segue into my next question, which is, can ego be used as motivation? And before you jump in and answer that, I'm glad you brought up Any Given Sunday and Al Pacino, because again, that's one of my favorite football movies besides the program and and everything like that. Uh, for me, ego is important. Ego can be used as motivation because again, just like the movie, Any Given Sunday, we need these inches, right? Inches are very important. My ego has to be big enough to say, I don't care who you are. I need to get these inches. I need these inches. I could be going against Lawrence Taylor, fearful, right,
Yeah.
of Lawrence Taylor. But in my mind, I gotta think, I gotta get these inches. If I could get these inches before Lawrence Taylor hits me, then I'm all good. And for those of you who don't know who Lawrence Taylor is the Hall of Fame linebacker, typically DM, but Hall of Fame. He's the one who broke Joe Theismann's leg.
Mhm.
Ooh, yeah, but I wanted to make sure I throw that piece in there. So I want to hear you answer this question: can ego be used as motivation?
I mean, certainly it can. It can be used as motivation. You're on top of your game in such a way that it forces you to take a step back and release such great work product that you want to do it because you're on such a high level of your craftsmanship. If you look at the top artists of the Renaissance, Bernini, Caravaggio, those were all top of their games. But every time they stepped out onto the canvas and got their paintbrush, they made sure it was better or as good, or if not better than the last previous good. So yes, ego can be good, but it's all about how are we feeling inside, and what is there like a hole, or is there some kind of imperfection that is kind of forcing us to use it as a means to escape, or is it as a means to kind of grow and kind of to reflect? Because we see Bryce, and he's escapism. He's using substances as a mean to escape. And I think once we are in that mode, it becomes harder to kind of want to break out of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that you mentioned in this book, it kind of goes back to adversity, but I also think that it could be used in all facets of this book.
Mhm.
Uh, the idea of just, well, in the book, it quotes, I quote, just get on base.
Yeah.
Focus on getting on base. It just with that being said, Can you
Yeah.
can you dive deeper into
Yeah.
that to explain what exactly do you mean by that?
Regardless whether it's like, you know, a walk that gets you on base, regardless if you're hit by a pitch that gets you on base, just get on base. Just focus on doing the smallest next step you can to ultimately get you to where you want to go. Like for me, for example, like I had a terrific amount of tutoring sessions before I entered the quote unquote normal school system again. So that was me getting on base, so to speak. It was finding out who was a good tutor commensurate with my needs at that time to make sure I had the chance to get to where I wanted to ultimately go. So I think that's one of the most powerful lessons like in the book, as well as adversity loves your ego. Um, and I think using those two together is the framework of something powerful.
Mm. I once I read that, of course I highlighted it and it jotted it down. But that that definitely stuck out to me because it reminds me of something that I've always thought about when I was playing football. You know, yeah, we could always go for it for the Hail Mary.
Mhm.
Honestly, we could go for the Hail Mary every play out if we felt like it,
But it's a
right?
risk, though. A lot of times, those are risks.
Yes,
And it's not about how you calculate your risks, though. Same as launching a business. A business venture of any sort, you need to want to weigh the risks ahead of time before you actually know what it is that you're truly getting into.
yes, yes,
A lot of the times, like if you want to like to win at life, it's taking measured risks, but going incrementalism until you hit your goals. That's when it becomes more fruitful
yes.
for all
I
involved.
I, I would definitely agree. The phrase that I used to use in my mind when I was playing football was, "Let's get the first down. Go for the first down." The first downs will eventually lead to touchdowns,
Mhm,
right? Or at least get us to the red zone for us to make a touchdown.
mhm.
And again, I'm my geekiness is about to show. Okay,
It's all
just
good.
just fair warning. So my position in football was as a quarterback and as a wide receiver. One of the main things that I was taught was to be the last person coming out of the huddle. In the huddle, I give the play, but I have to be the last person coming out of the huddle. The reason being is so that I could look at the defense, survey the defense to understand what is the defense giving me. The original play that I gave in the huddle, is that going to be still a good play versus the defense that they're playing on me, right? At which point, as soon as I call out the play, I know who my number one receiver is, right? But as I walk up to the line, I'm studying the defense. I'm studying the safeties. I'm studying the D backs, the cornerbacks. I'm studying the linebackers, right? To see what type of advantage are they going to give me in order for me to get the first down, right? Now, at any point in time, if I feel like there is a advantage on my end, yeah, I'm gonna call the audible. I'm gonna do
Yeah,
exactly what Peyton Manning does. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
Om- Omaha. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna call the appropriate play depending on the defense.
yeah.
But with that, you know, I might take my shot with that. But other than that, gotta get the first down. Gotta get the first down.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I think just taking it backwards. But to achieve the things we want to, we must begin as if we've already arrived. And that doesn't come from the book. That comes from one of my favorite books, Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. And I think we need to have that kind of mindset mixed with these like lessons to really choose to really drive us to really where we really want to and where we really need to go.
Mm, mm. I love it. I love it. One other thing that I definitely want to bring out
Hmm.
is the idea of what you know what. I want to dig into the angel on the shoulder.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, first of all, what made you come out with this book? What made you write this book? Was there any particular, um, something that happened to you that made you decide to write this book? But why do you think this book is perfect for right now?
So this book, really combines my love of sport, baseball in particular, but mixed with like kind of self-help. So I wanted to really write this book because I wanted to find a way to help people that are, in a tough situations like in their lives. For me, I'm very passionate about kids with like learning disabilities and learning challenges because I can relate to them very personally myself.
Right.
But this book is for others as well. And I think, this time period, we're all being thrown a curveball. And October was, Autism Awareness Month, World Mental Health Month, and Learning Disabilities Awareness Month. So it truly was the perfect time to bring something like this out into the world. We're all being thrown a massive curveball. Thank you, China. We're all being thrown a curveball. And it's about how we can react to that and turn fear into fuel and adversity into opportunity.
Mm,
But it was a very personal why. And I think, we start a lot of things. I have myself, especially, just for the fads, just for the trend of it. But this was the first product that had an extremely personal why. I started with the why, especially when I wrote this like close to almost 4.5 years ago, summer 2016. It was a
mhm.
why. I knew it because I can see myself in these kids. And once you're at that level of like, why and like purpose driven, that's when it can really turn into something special. And I think, a lot of the response is really reflecting that.
Mhm. Mhm. Just speaking on the whole COVID situation.
Mhm.
Something uh, earlier today, as I was being my wife's Uber driver, uh, we went into a Five Below, right? They do not have people checking you out anymore, right? So
Mhm.
pre-COVID, they had people check you out at the
Yeah.
registers, taking your stuff, taking your
Yeah.
money, putting it in
Yeah.
the bag, and then have a nice day.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, they have machines, sort of like a self-serve type of deal, where
Mm.
you just go to the scanner, scan your own stuff, bag your own stuff, and be on your way. Uh, One thing that jumped out at me was they had this slot where you could feed it money or you could use your debit card to pay for it and all that type of stuff. But what
Mhm.
really jumped out at me is they had this little coin slot that says feed me or something of that nature. But after seeing that little coin slot, a thought jumped in my mind.
Mm.
If COVID never happened, Five Below would have never had this change around in their systems, you know, to be more efficient, to use technology in a sense. I think COVID was a blessing and a curse
Yeah.
because it gives us the opportunity for us to do better, to innovate. That's the word
Yeah.
I'm looking for, to innovate.
Yes, I mean, it forces us to take a step back internally. What's going on with ourselves? How can we change it to reflect what can be right again in the world? Stop chasing outward perfection is supposed to inner reflection.
Yes,
And
yes.
I think, as I say in the beginning of the book, sometimes we almost have to lose something to find everything. And I think this couldn't be more apt than, in these COVID times because we're forced to find ways to pivot. We're forced to find ways to do things differently. And sometimes that can just be the way the natural system can just be reordered again.
I would definitely agree with that. Uh, a question that I want to ask you that I didn't get a chance to write down
Mm.
is why do people find it so difficult to change, even if it's for the better? I'm interested to hear your take on that.
Well, I think, people find it hard to change because they're not sure why do they truly want to seek the change, if any. Is it for themselves or is it for others? Is it to please a spouse or a grandparent or someone else's expectations? Like, why do you truly want the change? Only
Mm,
then can we force to actually say, here's how we can constructively look to actually put that change into action. The second thing is like, do you have like the resources? Do you have the willpower that would actually truly want to make you change? If you don't have it, then it's not much point in spending the time to say, I truly want to change if I can't really be bothered to put that change into being. So I
mm,
think, my opinion, it's those two things that would really, in terms of changing outcomes.
mhm, mhm. You know, uh, I'm sure you definitely understand this as much as I do. From playing sports, there are moments where we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
You know, we Allen Iverson
Hmm.
was famously quoted. Practice. We talk about practice, right? Um, you know, nobody wants to. Anybody wants to play the game,
Hmm.
right? But the fundamental thing that we are forgetting, or the fundamental thing that we tend to forget at times, is practice.
Hmm.
How important practice is, right? Rehearsing what the game is going to be like,
Hmm.
and what curveballs could be thrown at us in practice, so that we could be ready for them in the game. What's your thoughts on that?
I think we take practice as like I'm better than practice. I don't really need practice. I don't really need to do like the smaller things. But then we get traded to another team, a different environment, a more hostile environment, and it can be very difficult because we need to adapt on the fly. And if we haven't had all that kind of practice in a more comfortable environment, it can be very difficult to 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 meet those expectations and to take ownership of those expectations. I don't want to spoil the book, but there's a section in the book that's about taking individual ownership of your actions and taking individual ownership of like of your presence and standing for something truly greater. And he says that you need to own this. You need to own this. There's no one that's really going to come to your defense and come to your aid. And I think if we don't have that practice, it can be it's we lose sight of like true ownership in the craft and lose sight of true ownership of our team and what is it that we truly stand for.
Mm, I love that answer. It I would tell this story. Uh, so I'm about 6'5", right? I never learned how to dunk until I got to college, mainly because you know football and track, they those seasons kind of run right in the middle of basketball, so it wasn't like I could do all three sports,
Mhm,
right? Um, but I learned how to dunk in college, and what I did was I was able to get the gym to myself and grab a basketball, start at one end of the court, throw the ball down the court, run down the court, catch it, and then practice my steps 1, 2, go up and make sure I flush it down and all that type of stuff. And I'll turn around and do it all over again, right? And I continued to do that over and over and over and over and over again, right? To the point where my uh, my wrist was red and bruised and swollen and all that type of stuff, right? But that's what I had to do to learn how to dunk. I practiced over and over and over again. Well, there was a game. It was a pickup game,
mhm.
and there was this guy. I'll call him Shaq because he was just as big as Shaq, just as tall as Shaq. His game was just like Shaq, and he was just as ugly as Shaq, right? Um,
Can he shoot a
and
free throw?
actually, yeah, he was better at Shaq in that respect.
Uh,
And the school I went to, the college I went to was a college on the East Coast. It was a HBCU, a historically black college university. It was Delaware State University. And this guy, Shaq, he was from I want to say VA or Philly or New York, something like that. And so I got the rebound. We're in the pickup game. He was playing. I got the rebound and I threw it to my guy. And now he's heading down court and I'm kind of lagging behind just a tad bit. And he stops and he pulls up for the jumper, right? And I see Shaq down there, shielding off the guy on his back, and he's about to go up there and get the rebound. I seen from when my guy, shot his jumper that it probably wasn't gonna go down, right? So that's when I started kicking it up a tad bit, and I timed it perfectly. So when he shot the ball bounced off the rim and went back up in the air. Then again, I caught Shaq in position to jump up to get the rebound, right? I timed it to the point where as soon as the ball bounced off the rim, I was in the air already, grabbed the ball, and I dunked it, all over Shaq, right? So, I'm elated because this is the first time I dunked in a game, right?
Yeah.
And it was on Shaq. So, I'm talking tons and tons of trash to him, right?
Jeez.
So
Jeez.
he's like, okay, whatever. So we go back on defense. Shaq gets the ball at the elbow of the free throw line, right? And he turns around, and I'm underneath the basket with two other guys, one guy on each side, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can see what he wants to do. Like it's in his eyes. I could read it in his eyes. And he took that first step towards us, and the other two guys, they bailed on me, completely left me down there by myself, right?
Jeez.
And I see it out the corner of my eyes. I'm thinking to myself, suckers. Okay, fine. I'll take this guy on, right? Again, I probably had no business doing this, but I did it anyway.
Mhm.
So Shaq went up, I went up. Shaq came down, I came down. He dunked on me. I'm not gonna lie. He definitely dunked on me, which is what he's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
bigger than
Yeah.
me. You know, he
Yeah.
he did exactly what he was supposed to do, right? And of course, he talked a little trash. Again, it was all competitive and all that type of stuff. So it
Mhm.
was all out of love and all that type of stuff. But after the game, Shaq came to me and he said, "Hey, I gotta give you your respect. Nobody ever tried to stand up to me when I wanted to dunk or tried to dunk, you know, and all that type of stuff. So I got a lot of respect for you." And I said, "Well, I'm from Detroit. You know, if we don't have anything, we got heart. You know,
Totally. Totally.
got nothing but heart. And I would say that by me preparing, by me practicing, as if it was a game, I would have never been able to do that in an actual game. So preparing mentally, preparing physically for something remotely close to what I did would have never happened if I had not practiced."
And there's so few people at the pros that truly, and even at the semi-pro, that truly operate like that. Like I can only think of a few. LeBron. You know, maybe Tom Brady. Definitely Tom Brady. A few others. But like, it's very hard to actually have that mentality. Season in, season out. LeBron's going into his 18th season. Like I love LeBron. I mean, I think MJ is my goat, but whatever.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah. I mean, he's not gonna be the goat.
Right, right. I, I would throw this in there. Do I want to get posterized by LeBron? No. Who does? Right?
Yeah.
But again, this has a lot to do with competitiveness. It a tad bit to do with ego, or vice versa, however way you want to put it. Right? It would not allow me to just, you know, give him the lane for LeBron to dunk on me. Right? Just go ahead, take the dunk. You know what I'm saying? If my job is to be on defense to defend you, you know, and 9 times out of 10, I'm probably gonna get posterized. But that one time,
Yeah.
that one time, that's all I need. Because the competitive nature, and again, the
Yeah.
ego would say, I'm not gonna allow this. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you LeBron. You could be God for all I care. I am not gonna let you dunk.
Well, I think it can operate also as a defense mechanism, like you just
Mm,
said, as a means of self defense. I'm going to protect what's my own. I'm not going to let someone stomp on me and dunk on me and take away what I think is mine.
Yes, yes. You know, we've I've seen interviews of defenders when they talk about going against Tom Brady, right? D-backs, well, let me be more specific. Safety
Yeah,
and cornerbacks. When it comes to defending or going against Tom Brady, right?
yeah,
Tom Brady's stats speaks for itself,
yeah.
right? You know who you dealing with. This is Tom Brady. But there's only a select few of those defenders who said, I don't care who he is. You know, this is my job and I'm going to do this. And they study and study and
Mhm.
study and see little things in this game, little things that not too many people is able to see, which help made them more dangerous in a sense of playing Tom Brady, right? Um, and sure enough, Tom Brady still was Tom Brady, but they made it harder for Tom Brady to be
Yeah,
Tom Brady. You
yeah,
know, and I will also
yeah.
say a defensive lineman bought it in the Super Bowl a few years ago, right? A defensive lineman by the name of Brandon Graham was able to get that strip sack on Tom Brady
Mhm.
of all places,
Wow,
the Super Bowl, right?
wow.
Now, any one of those D linemen probably could have just said, "Man, Tom Brady's about to kill us again.
Yeah,
We're about to lose this game."
yeah.
Not Brandon Graham.
Mhm.
He was still working hard enough to get over there and to do the strip sack. And I'm giving Brandon Graham a shout out mainly because he is um, he's a graduate of my high school. So I
No
wanted to,
way.
yeah. So I wanted to make sure I give
That's
him that shout out.
that's
You
tight.
know,
Yeah,
yeah. But again, just as a alumni of my high school, to see him
yeah.
do that, you know,
That's
and
crazy.
I'm older than I am older than him,
Yeah,
as a matter of fact. But to see him before they play and to see his eyes, oh, Tom is in trouble.
mm,
Tom can't really run, but Tom better start running. you know, as soon as he came around the corner, it was
yeah.
lights out. He got the strip sack.
What teams do you play for?
He played for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, nice,
Yes, yes.
nice, nice.
But again, it kind of goes back to what we was talking about before, as far as practice. You
Mhm.
know, the importance of it, right? Before you get to the game situation and practicing like it is a game situation.
And I think, it's practice and deliberate practice. Deliberately practicing the schemes. Brendan Graham must have practiced the same thing, the same strip sack in practice though, and then he remembered because it's a ritual that's ingrained in him how to go after the best team's quarterback in that fashion, and that's how he executed it with TB.
Yes.
And I think, the importance of ritualization, especially as it's told in the book in the fictional novel sense, is very interesting because, as Spooky says, the rituals are a way of telling us, our brain, we're about to do what we are about to do, but we've always done it before, and we only figure that out really in tough times. That's how it really kind of comes into the
Yeah.
fight or flight aspect.
Yes. Yes. Muscle memory.
Mhm.
Muscle memory.
Yes, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
I I know we kind of geeking out on sports.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's all good. That's all good.
so allow me to take away from sports
Yeah.
for just a brief moment. Uh, so like I mentioned, I have an identical twin brother.
Mhm.
My identical twin brother went to the Air Force, uh, and had an amazing gig, um, an amazing job within the Air Force, where it allowed him to be around foreign dignitaries,
Mhm.
4-star generals, uh, you know, prisoners of war,
Wow.
um, you know, like just medal recipients, presidents, vice presidents, all types of stuff, right? Uh, but he also had the opportunity to be around some special op teams, right? Um, Again, he was in the Air Force doing this. I remember him telling me a story about um, the 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 Blue Angels.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe the Blue Angels is the Navy, but the Air Force version of the Blue Angels,
Yeah.
right? And how they rehearse everything that they're going to do
Mhm.
before they actually get out there and actually do it.
Mhm.
And I thought it was so profound because a lot of those things that the Blue Angels do is like really narrow,
Mm.
right? Like any slip up, and it could be a crash. You know, it could be a injury or broken plane, all types of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So they all get into a room, they close their eyes, and they rehearse out loud and visually what they do, right? So whoever's going to be like the lead playing will, let's say they have a formation where you got one guy in front and you got two guys behind you, and then behind them is three guys, and so forth in that type of formation. The lead plane, the lead pilot in the lead plane will say, "Okay, I'm banking right."
Mhm.
Everybody will bank to the right. Okay, I'm banking left. Everybody's banking left. And they just doing this for an hour or two, and then they go out there and then put on a show. What was so profound to me about that was I never thought or realized just how much they use these techniques to make the crowd go wow, to make the crowd go in awe with some of the tricks that they do, and it brought me back to how I often prepare before games, during games, and things of that nature.
Well, I mean, one of my, stories, about like, kind of like operational excellence is I had the privilege to see an F1 race in Montreal like about 3.5 summers ago, like June
Hmm.
like 2017. And I saw them like how they cleaned the pit after the cars had gone and come in and gone back out again. There was not to remove even the slightest bit of dust, however they did it, of some like machine. But we can't have a slightest bit of dust or dirt in the car's engine because that would ruin the purity of the engine and that would diminish the speed. Like I just thought, taking a step back, I'm like, wow, that is true operational excellence. And
Yeah.
I think, only at like the riskier stuff, like the fight, the Navy's fighter pilots, like F1 racing, where your life is on the edge and the cusp of like life and death, so to speak, and you're really pushing it at that levels, is when you can truly see like how the little details truly do matter.
I would definitely agree with that. I I think, and this is just a personal view, a personal opinion. I think you mentioned earlier Michael Jordan and
Mhm.
how he's the GOAT, and hands down, I'm definitely not going to fight you on that. I totally agree. Um, I think we all have a piece of Michael Jordan in us. It may not be in a basketball sense. It could be in whatever sense you want it to be in. Be it you know processes or technology or you know putting things together, engineering, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? What I believe made Jordan great was the fact that he was able to get into a zone every game, every game. Now let's think about this. There's what 82 games in a season. You know what I'm saying? And there's times when you playing two or three times a week, and you able to get in the zone every time, right? So taking that, what if we all could hit that Jordan zone in a sense,
Mhm.
right? If Jordan could do it, then we could at least be able to to bring up, I don't know, an eighth of that,
Mhm.
right? If we all could tap into our inner Jordan and be able to achieve getting into the zone, being in the flow state, you know,
Mhm.
whenever we set out to do something, think about how amazing we will be as people. And again, I'm not trying to make Jordan out
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
a
No,
god or anything
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Mhm.
Um, but what's your thoughts on that? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I mean, like, I what I loved about Jordan and the Last Dance documentary is, and we don't know how true this is, but he actually made up someone saying, "Good game, Mike," or "Good game, Jordan." He used that to such an extent that it was such great motivation for the series, and he's like, "I fucking crushed this guy's ass." Because of some
Yeah,
real or perceived, like, taunt against him. Like, I thought that was just brilliant. That was such a brilliant psychotic piece of, like, such inner motivation to get to the next level. So I truly agree, and I think, we're molded by, also adversity is a team sport as well. When the flu game, he was motivated by Scottie Pippen, by Steve Kerr coming through. That enabled him in the later stages of the game to also really come through, and that's why he had the flu game.
mm, mm.
Or as he would say, the food poisoning game.
Yeah, the food poisoning. Love it. I love it. I uh I I, I love it. So glad you brought that up. Um, I think it also speaks to it just to bring it back full circle, the ego piece that we spoke on earlier. You know how ego can be could be dangerous, but it can also be used as motivation.
Mhm,
As long as we put that ego piece in a focused area
mhm.
or something of that nature, I think all things are achievable.
He could have taken it, when he was cut from the high school team. He could have been like, "Oh, well, whatever." But he used that as motivation. He used that as like, I know where my true talents lie, and I am gonna come back the next time. And he made the next year. So we all can take our steps back. So we all can refine. We all can retool. It's really just a question of, like, do we have that inner drive, that inner willpower to really to really do what it takes. And, like, as he said in subsequent interviews on success, I love, there's a lot of great YouTube videos, but, like, you start with hope. You start with hope, and then you go step by step to really building it to become the Michael Jordan of whatever industry or whatever endeavor it is you choose to do.
Yes, yes. I know your time is valuable, so I'm going to get down to the last few questions, or we'll be on here talking sports forever.
Oh, okay. You're around too soon after this.
uh, totally, I agree. So I want to ask you, what is something personal that you want the class to know about you that cannot be found on Google or Wikipedia?
What is something personal? Mm.
I know it's a tough question.
Well, I mean, something personal. You know, my father was is an author and a self help speaker as well. So I kind of felt, pressure going into this endeavor. Is this book going to live up to, the glory and the prestige of those books?
Mm,
And I think that was very difficult because that also forced me to explore my own inner motivations and to explore my own, deep desires to do a work of my own. And I've had a lot of help from him, obviously, but like that is such a great quality that can last and that it has a great message. I really thought, I was times where I was stuck and I was fearful. Are people going to read the book? Are really people going to actually like the book? Because it was like, are the flashbacks too flashbacks? Am I using too much of that? Am I going too far into Bryce's past? Touch wood, it hasn't turned out that way. But it was all those emotions. It was all those things, and I use that as motivation to be like, no, I have my own personal story to tell, in this very intriguing way that mixes sport, which is a huge passion of mine, and the rest of the 5 billion people also on this planet do share that in some fashion, with enduring self-help principles. And how can it make a work of such great quality that can really help people and bring a joy on their faces?
Just out of curiosity, uh, well, two things. Just out of curiosity. One, was there a lot of trash talk between your father and you when it comes to you guys' books?
No,
Oh,
no,
damn
no,
it.
no. He's just been the biggest supporter because, like, he's been there. He also started as a self-published author. He's like, I'm with you 10,000% of the way, and he's been nothing supportive even right now.
All right. The second thing is, how did you
Because
how did you
it just you're just sharing an anecdote. I was with them um, summer 2016 on my deck, and I was seeing him write, and I'm like, okay, that's how you do plot. That's how you do characterization. He even said, take this out, put that back in. And so he was like a driving inspiration uh,
mm,
for me personally to get this done.
mm, how how did you deal with the pressure,
Mm,
whether it was outside pressure or inside pressure? How did you deal with those pressures? Because I know you mentioned
mm,
some of the negative self talk that you was having about
mhm,
your book. How did
mhm.
you deal with that negative self talk and the pressure?
So I think the negative self-talk is a function of inner critic, though.
Mm,
And the inner critic says that, you're not worthy of like this gesture. You're not worthy of this pursuit. And I broke that down by saying, not only am I worthy of this, but here's what I truly have to say that could be of value to someone in this time. And once I was coming from that and using the motivation and the inspiration of people I've been very grateful to have been around, it made it easier to push through those hard moments because writing the book was probably like the hardest thing I've had to do like till this point. I mean, Saturday nights, the 1 a.m. edits, the copy edits, like taking this out, taking that out, replacing this, replacing that, changing the characters' names. Bryce used to be Greg Clark before he became Bryce.
okay. Okay. All right.
There was a lot of it was so I broke that down by going to the basics, going to what is the why, and then the why led to the how, and the how led to the finished product.
Mm, okay. Okay. What is one thing that you want the class to leave from this lesson with?
Remember Spooky's rules for grit. Remember that it takes one pitch at a time. It takes it takes choose your pitches one base at a time. Adversity is a team sport, but most of all, remember your rituals, whether they're the smallest things you've been doing over years, or with your family or with yourself internally, whether it's a journal. But if it's a ritual, it becomes a habit. And using all of those tools together, then we can start to go on a journey of success and inner discovery.
Mm, that is a good place to end. So, with that being said, I want you to give a shout out to yourself and where can the class find you if they can find you. Well, because you're in Toronto, can they find you at Tim Hortons or what?
You've done your research.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Yes, I do frequent that place a lot. Um, in the virtual sphere, you can find me on Instagram at Colby Sharma Official. You can find me on Facebook at the Curveball 426. You can sign up for my mailing list at colbysharma.com and to see what I'm up to. If it's of interest to your audience, I have custom artwork that is for sale. I'm doing a package special where if you buy a bulk order of books, I will give a free piece of artwork for free that is signed, and it's of a character from the Curveball.
Mm, mm. Hey, I also want you to tell people where can they find your
The-
book.
you can find the book on Amazon. stripe.com.ca. You can also find it from my website. So the Stripe payment is activated, and you can actually order the books direct through the website.
Okay. And you said for them to join your email list. What was it again?
It's all at colbysharma.com. There should be a sign up tab.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. Awesome. Man, it was a pleasure having you come to the
Dude.
show.
Dude.
Uh, yeah,
Uh,
for whatever reason, I kind of knew that we was going to kind of geek out on sports a little bit.
we fucking jammed. We jammed.
Yeah, yeah. And also, um, the last time my wife and I was in Toronto on our way back, we've discovered something called ketchup chips.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously we can't get that in the States.
Yeah.
So whenever we can get some ketchup chips, man, we love it.
We gotta come back up here. We gotta come back up here when COVID is over.
I got you. I got you.
100%, man.
Man. So with that being said, class, I again I want to thank our guest professor for teaching us this lesson on what I told him that I was going to name it earlier. This lesson on grit. I think again, your book is amazing, my brother. I really appreciate what you have done, everything that you have put into it. I can see and feel the heart that you have put into this book. And I wish you nothing but success. And I can't wait to bring you back.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to share this time with you and your audience. This is the book that, approaching the Christmas holidays, when we've had such a tumultuous year, to find some Christmas spirit and some joy inside. So I encourage you. I've discounted the print book to $16.85, which is not a bad price. Get books for yourselves, for your loved ones, for your children, for your families, and have a great holiday and a great season to remember. And always remember, step by step, in order to truly win at the game of life. Thank you.
Yes, yes, brother. Yes, I appreciate that so much. Also, to you, class, you've heard all just tons and tons of great gems that we've talked about today. Man, I hope you guys been taking notes. I know I have. I definitely gonna have to reach out to his brother and bring him back on because everything that he spoke on about grit and not to mention the tons and tons of sports talks that we had. It was amazing. I want you guys to make sure that you study these notes, implement them into your life so that you all could be winners, so that we all could be winners, and that most of all, we could just be better people.
Yeah.
And you know what I say at the end of this time, class has been dismissed, and in everything, with everything, chase after with violent action. Class has concluded, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, guys. Take care. It's been a blast to share it with you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, dude. Epic.
About 15 years ago, I hated where I was at, and I knew that I was meant for more greatness. I wanted to start a business, and I asked my friends and family, how do I start a business? 90% of them never started a business before, and the 10% that didn't remember what they did. So I went on and earned my bumps and bruises from the School of Hard Knocks. My inspiration for the School of Hard Knocks and the courses that I've created was to reach people that felt the same way that I felt way back when. Like I was destined for more. The purpose of the Genesis Project podcast was to move those same people towards that greatness with the guest professor that comes to the show and learn from their mistakes. This is a call to action to those who are searching for greatness. Join the School of Hard Knocks by commenting, sharing, subscribing, and get this message out to those searching for greatness. Click on the links in the description to get more information. In everything you do, everything that you chase after with violent action. I'll see you in the hallway.